Hello. Hello, everyone. And hello, Oliver. And welcome to the third episode of Awaken Leadership. If you have been following along, you know that we are on a journey to explore what truly means to be an awakened leader, someone who leads with the heart, with clarity and purpose. And today's guest is someone who lives and breathes this every single day. I'm honored to introduce Oliver Kahle, a leader who bridges the gap between authenticity and intentionality into the world of digital transformation. Currently serving as the head of operational procurement excellence and digitization at Georg Fisher. There was a mouthful for a big title you have, Oliver. Oliver, you bridge the gap between innovation and humanity, infusing tech driven change with emotional intelligence, empathy, and purpose. Thank you for being Oliver. A big welcome to our show. And how are you feeling today?
Hello, Carmen. Nice to have me on your live stream. So I'm really honored to get the invite, and I'm a little bit excited. I'm always excited in cases like this, but I'm already looking forward, and I guess we will have a lot of fun during our conversation. So I'm doing fine, thank you.
Beautiful, because that's all the intent. The intention is to have some fun, share some wisdom and knowledge, and maybe inspire other leaders to look at leadership from this particular lens of an awakened leader. So how, your journey is a very particular one, and I haven't heard many people getting into a leadership position starting from carpentry. This is your story, right? You started working first with your hands, and you brought that knowledge and experience into a leadership philosophy today. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, for sure. It's correct. I started as a carpenter. That was I can say that was a dream being a small kid that I always wanted to be a carpenter. And I realized on my path during the professional, let's call it career or leadership journey, that it was always connected to this basic thing of creating things. First, I did it with my hands, and then later on, I started to create it, let's say, with my brain.
Wonderful. And what could you say, there's one thing, if there is one thing that you learn about leadership as a carpenter, what would that be?
Um, Actually, there are two things. One is to stay humble. So when I was doing my apprenticeship, I have seen I was working really with my hands, and it grounded me also to work with the hands. The second thing is that I like that the things work together. So I have a strong hands-on mentality, and I think this is also necessary for leadership to take decisions and make things work.
I love what you said about staying humble. And this is something that we don't talk about this so much in as one of characteristics of leaders, because many times we hear about leaders being loud, being from front forth, so coming strong, being there and showing the way. And you're talking about actually being humble and maybe showcasing other people before you showcase yourself. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yes, it's when I did my self-reflection. I mean, I was working as a carpenter, and afterwards I was working and I was earning a salary, which was nice to be 20 years old and to have the salary, and I could spend it on my own. But I have seen that there were also colleagues who were earning more or less the same money, and they had to feed two kids. So it always showed me that I'm in a position where I'm honored to have made maybe this career, but there were also people who have maybe not the best circumstances. And this always grounded me to have respect and also to accept that there are different possibilities. And this I really learned very, very early in my life, and it always stayed with me during my entire life.
It's so beautifully put, that sometimes, looking at other people's situations and recognizing how privileged we are in not only being a leader, like later on as yourself, but also recognizing that there are people working in your team. And what kind of situations they are in, let's say in particular moments, and being humble, saying not, having a big ego and saying I'm the leader, follow me because I have more, whatever, better and higher position than you, but recognizing that everyone in the team is a human being going through certain particular stories of life, and recognizing it from that particular perspective. So I know you are a, what we call a human centric leader, and for you being a servant leader, it's very important to put yourself in service to others. Do you have a story that you'd like to share with us about being in service to your team, or how do you do that? What would you like to share with our audience?
For me, one of the key skills is really to listen, to give the person, the employee, the feeling that I really care. And caring means a lot to listen, to understand. So there are always different ways, but I'm not listening to answer, or I'm not listening to explain how it could be done better. I'm really listening to understand what is going on in the person's mind, to understand and then take the next steps. So when you talk about employees, for me, it's taking care. For me, it's really listen to the needs of the people. And I'm very much aware, being a servant leader, that only my team can make me look smart. Without my team, I can never look smart. So that's it. Listen to it and let the others make you shine.
I love that how you put it, that they will make you look smart. Well, what I would say, you will if you don't put the team first, then no one is following you. So you can be a lonely wolf walking the path, but there's nobody behind you. So there is no team anymore. It's one person journey, let's say, in a way. So it's kind of difficult to do that, separating yourself from the group, I would say.
It's for me, I always differentiate between management and leadership, and we are talking about leadership, and the only one who can authorize me being a leader are my followers. It's not my org chart, it's my followers. So if they trust me, if they follow me, then I'm a leader. If I'm a manager, I can be a manager, but if I don't have followers, I cannot be a leader.
And how do you build their trust? So you're saying, we're now talking in this terminology of having followers, right? Like, in order for them to follow you, you need to build trust with them. And especially during difficult times, or times of uncertainty, times of change, all companies are going now through a lot of turmoil. How do you build trust with your people?
For me, there are different components. First of all, I think it's being in times of uncertainty also to a certain level vulnerable, to let the people know, look, I don't have a solution for everything. I also feel in certain areas unsafe, but I have an idea how we could solve it together. So it is not the expectation that I can give an immediate answer to every problem, but that we are there to orchestrate the opinions in the team. And this vulnerability for me is a key fact. It starts with it as a leader.
Yeah, I love what you said right now, because a lot of leaders, they have a bit of a fear of becoming too vulnerable. Some say, okay, vulnerability hangover, that they said too much and it will open too much, and then they'll have this hangover afterwards. Why did I share so much? Or even just that fear of, okay, if they come too close to me, right? If I'm too vulnerable, they don't know where the boundary is. How do I set a proper boundary between being a leader and being considered a friend? How do you manage that?
It's an important point, and it was also a learning for me. So I learned my lessons. When you share too much, when you I'm very open to talk about my family. I'm also open to talk about things that are going on in my mind. But of course, you also have to be careful with whom you can share what. Otherwise, they might lose the trust in you, that you have a solution. So it's a thin path, and it's a learning with whom to share what. Yeah, that's the experience of leadership and the joy of leadership for me.
Yeah, it's beautiful that like you said, it comes with experience. It's something that, trial and error, and error brings that experience, brings that wisdom and knowledge. It's not about avoiding failure, it's about trying. And I heard you saying before, when we had other conversations in the past, how you deal with that and how you empower your people also when they make mistakes. It would be lovely if you want to share a little bit about how do you deal with this kind of situations of mistakes and failures.
Yes, first of all, I really don't like the word of mistakes. For me, it's really a learning part. And what we try to do, and what I try to tell my team, is to do intelligent mistakes. So we should really have an idea. We take a decision with the knowledge that we have today. And when it's the best idea or the best knowledge we have, then we continue. If it then turns out in 4 weeks or maybe in 3 months that it was wrong and our decision was not the right one, we need to reflect what we have not considered 4 weeks ago. It's so easy to say that it was wrong, we should have known better. But I always say, when we do our homework, we should be bold enough to take a decision, and then the learning starts. So, yeah, think about it, be bold, and then reflect on it.
And learn from that experience, right? Because once you recognize that, from this learning it comes actually a broader view, of a more conscious view of the situation. And I hear you also are in continuous communication with your team. There's a continuous dialogue, and this kind of builds the trust, because if they are feeling free to come to you with something that you say, hey, we tried that, it didn't work out, but this is what we learned, they feel
Yeah.
empowered to try again. Versus, okay, you made a mistake, you've been punished for the mistake, and there's, a different approach to it. And how does that work for you? What do you see in your people? How do you select them to that they build this kind of trust with you? And how do you nourish them? How do you nurture them throughout the time to become such a strong performing team?
Interesting question is, how do I select it? I already talk about it in the interview phase. So the interview phase for me is something that I do not only get to know the candidate also should get to know me. And what I always say to the candidate is, look, if I'm telling you in 3 to 6 months still what you need today, what you need to do in your daily work, we are both doing something wrong, because I need someone who becomes an expert in his field and is helping me to tell me what we need to do different to do a better job. And this I always phrase in the interview, and I tell the person, the candidate, this is how we work. Please think about it if you want to work like this, because not everyone wants to work like this. But I'm not scared to mention it already in the interview as early as possible.
So you give them already from the beginning that setting. You have, yeah, bring this knowledge as soon as possible, that you are actually not advancing. Bring it
Yeah,
to me. If you are not, if you're something is happening, please be free to come to me and
yeah.
tell me, and we can
Yeah.
find a solution.
And
Okay. And I heard you before saying, be part of the solution, not the problem. How is that part of your philosophy?
yeah, I remember. I mean, sometimes you have to show your values also to your team. And I remember very well that when I had a challenging situation in my work experience with one of my bosses. And I remember well when I went into his office and they said, look, we both know that it is not working in the direction we both were expecting. But let me ask you one question. Am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? And his answer was, you are part of the problem. And then it was very
Mm.
clear that I need to find a solution, and it was clear that we have to separate. So for me, it's always important that you also have a clear communication. What are we focusing on? Are we focusing on the problem or on the solution? And yes, then it takes leadership to bring clarity. So
What I'm hearing from you, Oliver, is also being brave to ask this kind of questions. I think many people and leaders in general will fade away from this kind of clarity. It does bring you clarity when you ask this question, right? You know it's left or it's right. Where am I going is very clear. But having that courage to say, okay, now I actually know it's actually out. My way is out. How do you deal with that? Because it does take some courage and some guts to be, okay, I'm taking it. I'm moving into another direction.
Yes, like you said, it takes a lot of courage, but I see it that I know my values. I know what I want, how I want to live my life, my private life, and also my business life. And I know very well which kind of circumstances I need to flourish. And if something is in between, we can talk about it. Maybe it's a failed communication, but if it's in your gut feeling that you say something is wrong here, I'm not waiting for others to take decisions for me. I push for the clarity. I can now talk about it a little bit calm, but it's still yes, I see my temperature rising, because when I was in this situation, I can tell you it's a damn difficult situation. So I'm not super cool, super smart, and just asking, by the way, is it better that I quit or not? It's not like this. But if you have this 2 or 3 times, you know which direction to go.
Yeah, and I'm sure that was a great example also for the people in your team when they see you standing up and doing the things that you believe in and you standing up for your values. You become a real role model, and people get courage. They get that courage and inspiration from seeing this example. So thanks so much for sharing that story, even though it's a one that still makes your blood boil up a little bit. So maybe we change a bit the topic and talk about digital transformation, because it's you are in a field where AI is very prominent, and I'm wondering, how do you keep the balance between AI innovation, efficiency, and empathy and emotional intelligence? So how do you bring that human factor into a very tech driven transformation?
Very good question. For me, it's always important to have the human in the loop. So everything what we do, we need to progress. We are now living in a digital age, so we cannot run away from digitalization. So we should try to be in the driving seat so that we can drive the direction, that we understand the technology, that we know about the possibilities, but also about the concerns. And when talking about the concerns, most important is to know the concerns of your employees, where we come back to listening again to their concerns. And if you know it, then you can find the right balance.
So I love how you come back to listening, so we know what the concerns are. And a few days ago, I was having a conversation with someone who's working in HR, and she was mentioning something very interesting, and I'll share it with you and see if it resonates with you or not. She was saying that she was at a conference recently, and one of the speakers was mentioning that uh, this generation of leaders is the last generation who will be leading only human employees. And that touched me, that touched me really hard, because I recognize, wow, what does it mean? Like, how would it's a huge impact, thinking that you will have in your team contributors which are actually AI contributors. They are not uh, human beings. Would you like to share a bit on this particular
Yes, we
topic?
have also, we make our experiences. So we are also talking about agentic AI. So what this tool can do. I think, yes, we will have, let's say, partners who might be digital and do the work, but they still do the work of a human being. And especially, I'm working in procurement, there's a lot of repetitive work, and this can be done by an agent. And if this means that I'm then leading a team of humans and of agents, I'm fine with it. But in my opinion, you still need a human who is going to implement and tell the agent what to do. So I'm not sure that you can really say you are leading agents, but you're leading a team of experts who are also able to work with agents.
Hmm. Okay, so you see it as, um, in a way, what I hear, human in the lead. You need the human and the human experience to be able to work with this particular agent. So but it still, it feels like the work will change drastically. The work, not only the workload, but the expertise that is required. And many people might feel uncomfortable because these agents might be doing their jobs.
Yes, that is a concern that I share, and I also think that yes, these agents also, in my opinion, they are coming. And once again, like I said before, we have to be in the driving seat. So if I'm a person, I'm an employee who is uh, scared to lose my job because of the agent, then it is my task as a leader to show what this person can do, and it's my task to upskill the person in a timely, rightly manner. So we should start now and not in 2 or 3 years when it's too late. And I have to show to the people and listen to the person and show him what you are going to do when the bot or the agent is doing your work that you are doing now.
Yeah. Again, a lot of listening, a lot of dealing with these fears of the unknown, the uncertainty, and
Yeah,
upscaling. I heard you saying that's so important to identify how to bring, I always call it, how we bring the genius out of the person, because we all have a unique genius, a unique purpose. Maybe the repetitive work that was done before was not bringing that genius out. So what I hear you saying, probably the job of future leaders will be to become even more skilled at identifying this genius in the person and being able to make them see it, to embrace it and have the courage to bring themselves up to that
yeah.
level.
It's also one thing. I mean, we talk a lot about the growth mindset, and here I can really recommend the book by Carol Dweck. We are able, also from a neuroscientific point of view, to learn even with an age of 40 or 50. So we are able to learn new things, and that is also the part that we have to be aware that most probably everyone from us needs to change in a certain way to be safe in the digital age. And therefore you have, we always say, embrace the challenge. But yes, this should be a guided challenge by your leadership or by your leader. And then I tell my people, yes, we all have to learn something new.
Yeah. It's good book. If you want to share it later on in with the audience, will be wonderful. And I'm thinking right now to ask, if anybody watching us right now live would like to ask you a question, they can type it in the chat room as a comment. And if not, if you won't be able to respond now, also you can respond later, and definitely share that book with us. Um, I think, like you said, there is always an opportunity to change, and our brain, our neuroplasticity helps us with that. The question is, do we want to, do we desire this change, and how do we empower people, motivate people to see it as possible, exciting, fun, attractive?
Yes.
And that will be what I hear from you saying, that's the job of the leader, to be able to do that.
It's two things. One is being a role model. So I also did my trainings. I'm 48 years old now. I have a family. I have a job. And if I'm able to make my trainings, I really try to be a role model and to say, look, it's difficult, yes, but it's possible. And sometimes it also needs, again, courage to also maybe envision the person what will be the situation in 2 or 3 years. And if the person is not developing, if the employee is not developing, he might be scared to lose his job. But if he's not moving for the next 2 or 3 years, I can open a scenario where this might become reality, so that I have this sense of urgency. I also have to talk about it, and I have to convince the person, and I have to show a path how we might do it together. And yes, then I hope that he will come with me on the journey. In general, it works like this.
Yeah, being a role model definitely helps. And as you said, it's never too late if we want to make a change to do it. And yeah. It's not easy, but from what I hear from you is that it's coming. This is something that is coming, and if we don't get on the boat, we miss we miss the journey. So it's how do we become more adaptable, more flexible, open-minded, to be the ones leading the agents, and yeah, pretty much being ahead of the curve in a way, just to understand the transformation process. Wonderful. Is there any guiding principle, leadership guiding principle you'd like to pass on to the new generation of awakened leaders? Is there something that you'd like to share with them?
Yes, it's important that you know your values. I know very well my values. I have three. One of them is family, so family first. The second one is respect, and the third one is joy of living. And if you really know your values, and for me it took years, and honestly they are also changing. Of course, with family it changes. If you know your value, then stick to them and ask you from time to time if you still have the right balance. And if you are true to your own beliefs, you cannot do the wrong choice.
So get to know your values. How did you do that? I know you had your own journey, but can you share with us your journey to really becoming so rooted and being so connected with your values?
It's yes, it's a lot of self-reflection. There's, for example, there's a very good book which is called Seven Habits, where you do some
Mhm.
exercise and some work on your own. For example, you get a list of 50 values, and you really have to find out the core ones. And this is the thing that you also need to reconnect with your gut feeling, with your inner self, if this is really resonating. But it takes time, and it also takes some self-reflection, but you can work it out for sure.
So you encourage people to to do it themselves. So read the book, take the assessment, and figure it out, what the values are. And once they have their values, because I know you are also using these tools in your interviewing process, once they have the values, what is the next step?
The next step is to figure out, do you can you live your values? Are you working, for me, respect? Am I working in an organization that is respectful to each other? If it's not the case, like I described the story, then you should rather think if this is the place where you flourish. And sometimes it also helps to take some external help. So when I also had some coaching sessions, and sometimes someone external might guide you better because there's no bias. So this I can also
Mm.
recommend in when you have your breaking time in life. For example, when I was out of work, I was taking a coach, and I was also vulnerable, and I was reaching out to someone to help me, and yes, to do this work together with me.
And I know you also did some coaching courses
Yes.
yourself because you wanted to become a better leader to your people. So I know you've I always talk in one of the very important characteristics of any leader, but of course of awakened leaders, is self-awareness, really becoming self-aware and on this continuous path of learning, understanding, polishing. So I've seen your journey, that you've done this quite a lot. What do you say to other leaders from your learnings through coaching, through self-discovery, through self-reflection? What would be, let's say, one invitation to them? What should they reflect on, to shift, to embody more, to become more awakened leader?
So the reason why I did this business coaching was due to my team. They told me that, look, you are amazing what you do. You should really make it as a profession. And then I said, no, I don't want this, but I want to check the tools. So I was checking my toolbox with the coaching, and what I learned and what I can really recommend to everyone is that my reality will never be the reality of the other person. I never know what is going on in the life of the other person. So even for me, the clearest answers might be not clear to someone else. Everyone is having his own reality. And if we accept this, it's already the first step to a better understanding and to a better solution and to a trustful communication.
What a beautiful summary of our conversation. Thank you so much, Oliver. It's been so insightful and inspiring to talk to you today. Thank you for sharing your journey, your wisdom, and your heart with us today. And I encourage everyone to watch this and get some more inspiration and get in contact with us if they have any questions. Thank you, Oliver. It's been a true
Thank you
pleasure.
also for me. Thanks, Carmen.
Thank you.